a UG Youth Mapper, and I'm doing this presentation with Isaac Kingsley Afagazi, who's from KNST YouthMappers. The title of our presentation, of course, is Producing Quality OSM Data, Beginner Guidelines and Shortcuts to Mapping with ID Editor and JOSM. So this presentation is going to be based on an experience that we've had with University of Ghana YouthMappers, a couple of challenges that have been faced, and we think that it's best if we share this with the world and also with other YouthMappers chapters around the world. Probably they could use that as a replica in solving certain challenges that they also face within their chapters, or even other OSM, country-specific OSM communities could also use that as, as a method or metric. So then the background is that at the University of Ghana YouthMappers, there's a large percentage of beginner mappers. So that then means that we tend to have lots of mappers doing a bit of poor mapping. So that means that we tend to have a lot of the mapping works or the edits of UG YouthMappers, beginner mappers, most of them being invalidated. So then it means that we tend to have less map edits, or we have less map data. So then it's more like we map so much, but because the data or the edits are not very quality map data, most of them are invalidated, and then we end up having very less map data being mapped out there. So OpenStreetMap Ghana noticed this challenge and took it upon themselves as an initiative to conduct a weekly in-person training for the University of Ghana YouthMappers chapter. So this is a picture showing where Mautor from OpenStreetMap Ghana and Daniel also from HOTS, he's a global validator as well as with OpenStreetMap Ghana, coming to our chapter every week on Fridays to teach us how to map with ID Editor and also with JavaScript OpenStreetMap. All right, so the challenges with the beginner mapping. Most of the challenges that we tend to face with our beginner mappers at the University of Ghana are, first of all, imagery offsets. That's like most of the imageries that it take do not align with the edits, with the objects that they are mapping. So for instance, an imagery of a building which hasn't been aligned properly. So then you end up realizing that the imagery has been offset or tagging. Instead of this being, let's say, a field or let's say a park, it probably may be tagged as a building instead. And all these are challenges with some of our beginner mappers. Another thing too is poor change set comments. When after you are done with everything, the change set comment that you put there to add as a description or to add up as what exactly you did in that particular task tends to be very bad. And also, another thing some of our mappers or certain beginner mappers tend to do is trying to find short means of advancing to the next level. That's like, instead of mapping quite a number or making quite a number of edits before uploading them as one change set, they tend to edit one edit. They tend to make one edit and upload it as one change set, which is very, very, very unhealthy. So for instance, if you are using ID Editor, it is advisable that because, and you don't have, let's say, very good internet, so you have issues with internet connectivity, for a fact, if you don't upload as a change set, you're going to lose everything. So what we would advise is that at least you should have, let's say, 10, 20 edits before you upload it as one change set, and not just one edit as one change set. Thankfully for JOSM, JavaScript OpenStreetMap, you can make lots of edits, whilst like so hundreds of edits without you necessarily having issues. And then when you're about to upload, that is when you need, internet to upload it and all that. So for JavaScript OpenStreetMap, you can edit as much as 50 plus hundreds, 200s, as much as your ability can. And then you upload as one change set. And then that is what's all right, so there's been proposed solutions. So myself and Kingsley have been thinking of like things to, or ways of solving. We think we proposed ways of solving these issues and all that. And the first thing we thought of was that there should be an automatic mail that should allow validators to send direct emails commenting on a mapper's work, or the mapper's contribution. Because currently what we have is that when somebody maps and it is validated, they get an automatic mail that comes into their mail telling them that their work has been validated or has been invalidated. We are thinking that it would be best if the validator is better able to send a direct email to the mapper, aside just saying that your work has been validated, but then being able to give them proper comments by telling them, oh, this and this and this is what I noticed when I was validating your work. Maybe you should do it this way, maybe you should do it that way. Another thing too is that we advise and encourage, another thing too is that we advise most of our mappers to make sure that they should upload, like make many edits before they upload as one change set. So like I initially said, instead of uploading one edit as one change set, you can make a lot of edits, like 50, depending on whichever editor you're using. If it's JOSM, you can use over 50. If it's ID editor, it's advisable you keep it to 20 if you don't have very good internet connection. Yeah. And then for most of young mappers out there, beginner mappers out there that are youth mappers like myself, that are youth mappers from other chapters around the world, we also encourage that we all try and take the youth mappers course, as it really helps us with how to map and how to go about making map edits and changes and all that. You can find a link to the youth mappers course in this slide after it's posted, or you can go to the youth mappers website and you can find the link to the youth mappers course. Another thing too was that we try to think about the fact that in a bit for someone to advance from, let's say, beginner mapper to an intermediate mapper, we should try and add quality data as a criterion. That is to say that the criteria for advancing to the next stage in the mapping level should not necessarily be the number of edits or the number of change sets, but also the quality of the map edits or the map changes that have been made. And another thing too is about the fact that beginners should try and complete a task that they try to map, so that they get feedback from validators. So for instance, if you're a beginner mapper and you open up a task, you take a task on hot. If it is too big for you to map or map the whole thing, you can split it into 4 tasks. When you split it, it then becomes tiny 4 pieces that you can complete one. The reason for this is because when you are able to finish a task, you are able to get feedback from a validator. Your work sometimes can be validated, changes can be made and all that. And that are things that can help you improve as a beginner mapper in producing very quality map data and all that. So if you think that one task on hot is too big for you to complete, maybe there are so many buildings, there are so many features that you cannot edit all of them, the best thing you can do is to split them and try and make sure that you finish at least one of the splitted tasks so that you can get feedback as a beginner mapper. Another thing too would be on the fact that there has to be very, very good alignment of the imagery. So when you're mapping a building, you notice that your imagery is offsetting. You know that the corners are not aligned with the corners of the building. You have to make sure that you align everything properly in order to produce very, very good maps. And then another thing, very, very important, is change set comments. After you are done with a task, putting the change set comments over there is very important, because then it tells somebody, or it makes somebody aware of what exactly you did within that task. So yes, you mapped buildings, you mapped roads, you mapped waterways, you mapped this. It gives a kind of description to what activity went on in that particular task. So it is very, very advisable that youth mappers make very, very good change set comments in all that. So these are a few of our proposed solutions that we did. Kingsley is going to take it from here and start with telling us about how to go about the shortcuts to mapping with JOSM and also mapping with ID editor. So you can go to the proposed solution.
Hello. Hello. Please, am I audible? Hello. Hello.
Yes, Isaac, you're audible.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So I'll continue from where Lindsay ends then. So as part of the challenges that Lindsay mentioned, that's the imagery of it and poor tagging and poor chain set comment. We have some sites that individual mappers can also visit so that they'll be able to learn more about chain set comment, tagging, and imagery offset as well. And the last point is really very important, that shortcut to getting into advanced and intermediate mappers is not very advisable, because even the advanced mappers and intermediate mappers have some things to learn, which is from the beginner side. Okay, so sometimes when we'll be mapping and you'll be seeing some mistakes, you'll go and change the status of the person and to be like advanced mapper or intermediate mapper. So when we talk about offset, offset is about how the feature we map is being aligned with the imagery that we work with. And we mostly know that the OSM imagery that we use is not perfectly aligned with the actual feature that we map. So it's very important that we take note of that. So I will share my screen on how you can go about with offset. Just a minute. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So concerning of what we were talking about as offset, because different imageries are being used to map, that's what causes the offset problem. Or some people will come in using bin imagery, others will come in using Maxa, others will come in using Azure. So when you are mapping with IDA data, it's very important to check the offset, okay, which is very important. And if possibly, you can check the offset which is being used by the person who contributed to that edit as well. So looking at this area, when I go to my background setting, I can see that it's a bin imagery which was being used to map this place. Okay. So I will scroll down. Yes. Okay, so I'll come to show background setting panel. Then I will see the advantage of this imagery, okay, which is bin imagery, and it was used to map from January 3rd, 2014 to May 31st May, which is 2022, which is kind of very current imagery. Okay. So before you do any edit, it's very important that you check all these things. You come to your background settings and you go to show background panel. So you will get this information, which is going to help you to know the advantage of the image. Okay, and so let me change the imagery to let me say Azure. Okay, so at this point you can see there are some changes in this imagery, and the offset is not even really, the edit is not really aligned with the actual buildings which are on the ground. So these are the small problems that you have to take note when we are mapping. You have to go through the background of the imagery to know the advantage of the imagery before we make any edit. Otherwise, it will be affecting our edit as we map. Okay. And the next thing I will talk about is the tagging. So tagging is just like attaching metadata, which is being attached to every map every edit that we map. Okay, so just kind of descriptive characteristics of the edit that you make. Okay, that's the value and the key of what you map. So if you map a building, you say building, which is either residential, a hospital, or any other thing else. And it's very important to know all these things, which help us to know the key characteristics of every feature that we map on the ground. Okay. So if you don't if you don't tag features very well, it's going to have some disadvantage on some of the people or maybe organizations who uses this data in their project. It can bring like inaccuracy, confusion, conflict in using the map data and multi-tagging as well. Okay. So I'll also go to this site, which is very helpful when we are tagging our edit. So I go to OSM UK. Okay. So when I go to OSM UK, I'll go to OpenStreetMap Wiki. Then I'll come to the search panel. Okay. Then I'll type map features. So the map features will give me a lot of knowledge, or let me say a lot of insights on how to tag buildings, how to tag anything that you map. So from my screen, if you can see it clearly, you can see these taggings. I want to go to the particular, let me say, yeah, this part. So as I was saying, it's very important to know the feature that you are mapping, which is the key and the value. So here we know that the key of this amenity, the key of this feature is amenity, okay? And the value is what actually the feature is, whether it's a bar, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a fast food joint, whether it's any other thing that you know. So, and it's also important to have a local knowledge when you are mapping. Most of the times when we are mapping our villages, our hometowns, it's very important to have a local knowledge about what we are doing. And because we are living in these towns, we can tell actually whether a particular building is a hospital, whether a particular building is a coffee shop, whether it's a bar, a cafe, or something. Because when people are using data in OpenStreetMap, they can download the data, and when they are trying to use it in maybe QGIS and they want to categorize it, okay, whether a hospital or something else, they find it difficult because we are going to categorize than the
Kingsley, we can't hear you, or is it me alone? Hello, Kingsley.
Yeah, please can you hear me now?
Okay, yes.
Okay, sorry. So I was saying some people find it very difficult when they are using OpenStreetMap data because most of them are being tagged as buildings. Okay, we don't give the actual value of that building or the feature that we've been used. Okay, so people will be using it and they want to categorize it, but all that they will see is buildings, buildings, buildings. We don't have any categorization of a hospital or something like that. But if you go to some part of the maybe towns and cities, you will see that mappers have been able to add their local knowledge in their edit, which is having a correct value of the feature that they've been mapped, okay, and which is very helpful. Okay. And the next thing that I'll talk about is the change set comment, okay, which is very important to validators. Okay, when they are trying to validate beginners map, regardless of your level in mapping, that's what they look, and that's what helps them to validate your work and know what you've done. Okay, so on the same OSM wiki, I'll type in the search bar change set. Okay, sorry, change set. Okay. So from this side, you'll be able to know a good change set comment and a bad change set comment. Okay, so some people will finish a task in Hot Task Manager and they will say fixed. Okay, and some people will also finish and they will say updated, updates, and other stuff, and which is very bad and confusing for validators, because if I'm a validator and I want to validate your work, I want to know exactly what you did. Okay, so they will come in, they will see fixed, update, or updated or anything like that, which is kind of confusing and cause misunderstanding when they are trying to validate our work. So when you come to OSM wiki and you search for change set comment, you can go through and know some of the good change set comments and other. So I'll scroll down and you see change set comments here. Um, um, a minute.
Please, Kingsley, wind up. We already 12 minutes past your presentation.
Okay, so then let me move forward to the last one. Okay. So when you read through, you know the good change set comment that you can discuss as a mapper and what you can add when you are done mapping. So the last thing that I'll give to beginner mappers is learnosm.org. So this site gives us more understanding on OSM. Sorry. So when I come to OSM and I go to the beginner guide, I'll be able to get the introduction of OSM, that and ID editor, and everything that's concerned about OpenStreetMap, which is very important. I give this opportunity to every beginner to come to this site, learn everything which is here, and it's going to be helpful. And another thing that I will say about our beginner mappers is how we participate in mappathons and other stuff. Because when we participate in mappathons, we get to get new knowledge in mapping, and we'll be able to share our ideas. Sometimes you'll be tagging things that you think is right, but when you are able to join maybe a Mapathon, a meeting, and you share your idea, they'll be able to correct you, okay, which is very important. So please, at this point, is anyone having a question?
The question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I've seen the question. Okay, so thank you for the question. As I said, when you are mapping any feature or any area, your hometown that you wish to map, okay, it's very important that you switch the imageries, okay, which is very important. So if I was mapping this place, okay, let me, if I was mapping a particular place using ID editor, oh, sorry, I think I will get it. Yeah. Okay. So you let me talk along as I'm trying to search for my thing. Okay. So if you are mapping with ID editor, you can switch between images so that you'll be able to know the type of imagery that will perfectly fit with the features that you are seeing on the ground. So, okay. So like I said, if I'm a beginner mapper and I want to map this particular place, I have to make sure that I zoom in.
Kingsley or whoever is talking, please, we have only 2 minutes left, so let's wrap up and
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So I will zoom in well to see whether the offset is okay. And at this point, I can see that there is a little bit shift from this building which is being mapped. Okay, so I will switch the imagery. Okay, I will try and change my imagery to beam. Okay, so have you seen when I switch to beam, I've been able to get the correct alignment of the building and the imagery that I'm using, or the imagery that you selected. So it's very important to switch between imageries and also check the imagery vantage, which is going to help you to know whether you are using the correct imagery for that particular town or place. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So have I been able to answer the question? Okay, thank you very much. Please, is anyone having other questions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your awesome presentation. Thank you for organizing and your slides and giving us the presentation, you and Lindsay. It was one of a good presentations I've had so far. And thank you. You've been our last speaker in this room. So thank you again. And thank you for every other listener on the call and everyone who took part in this.
Okay.
Session. So
Okay.
I'm
Thank
going
you very
to
much.
end the recording.
Okay.